Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Let's take a look at the headlines. Finance Minister hints to Budget 2014 preparations. Ministry of Health has issued tips on buying food. And government investing in the development of the country's creative and cultural economy. In our top story, Finance Minister Larry Hawaii says he is awaiting the green light from Cabinet for the presentation of the 2013-2014 fiscal package. The minister hinted that a day has been submitted for approval and is noting a budget surplus to roll over into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund.
Finance Minister Larry Hawaii is noting a budget surplus in the fiscal year 2012-2013. His comments come ahead of an anticipated budget presentation in the coming weeks, as the minister has confirmed that a date has been sent to Cabinet for approval. Speaking to reporters following the presentation of the Ryder Scott report, the Finance Minister says the economy has grown for 3 consecutive quarters and the country can expect further growth in the final quarter.
My own read of the first 9 months of this year, the data that I have actually show us having a budget surplus, mainly because revenues are up and expenditure has been reasonably well controlled. So that while we had projected a deficit of several $1 billion to the end of June, we actually have been running, we have a surplus as at the end of June. And I expect that the fiscal outturn should be very positive by the end of this year. The surplus as at the end of June was about 300 million TT dollars. You know, it's in a budget the size of the one we're dealing with, that's relatively small. But the good news is that it was in surplus, good and bad, in the sense that it means that some of the projects we were expecting to see happen hasn't proceeded as quickly as we would have liked. So that's a downside that I need to take into account. But by and large, as I say, the key issue for me was to get the economy growing again. And it means that we've been able to achieve that without significantly affecting our fiscal aggregate.
Minister Hawaii says the upcoming budget will look at developing key areas targeted at sustaining economic growth.
The public-private partnership had not been as developed as I thought when I got in. It's only as I started working in the ministry I realized that we were further behind than I thought we would have been. I expect that we should be in a position to start signing some agreements with the consultants within the next few weeks, and we will start to see a couple of projects going. What I'm looking at is that I've always said that growth doesn't necessarily mean development. Development, in a sense, represents would reflect a much broader diversification of the economy and a much greater degree of sustainability than we have right now. So the next phase that I'm looking for us to get into is a greater focus on that part of the equation which relates more to the development of the economy, further diversification, getting new projects up and running. So those are the areas that we'll be focusing on during the course.
The Finance Minister explains that through this surplus, additions to the Heritage and Stabilization Fund will now take it over the $5 billion mark.
I've identified a program where the first phase was really bringing to a close some of the issues that we inherited, like the HCU and the CL Financial, which we're bringing. We're getting close to closure now on those areas, and also to move towards growth in the economy. And as the Minister pointed out, the last 3 quarters have shown growth. The quarter ended June. I see no reason why the numbers should not also be very positive. So we will have shown a year of growth over the past 12 months. I made a transfer of about, not a very large transfer, about 270 million TT, which would be about 40 million US. So that took us over the $5 billion mark for the Heritage and Stabilization Fund.
Budget for 2012-2013 expenditure was placed at $58 billion and pegged against an oil price of US $75 per barrel and a gas price of US $2.75 per million cubic feet. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
The Ministry of Health has issued tips on buying food from restaurants in an effort to protect citizens from consuming contaminated food, thereby putting their health at risk.
The health conscious have now moved away from simply counting carbs and calories to ensuring that their food choices and the relevant vendors are in line with their healthy lifestyles. On the heels of the San Fernando City Corporation cracking down on vendors and restaurant owners who practice improper food safety habits, the Health Inspectorate under the Ministry of Health is also doing its part to ensure there is a pristine food and beverage industry for citizens. On Monday, the Public Health Inspectorate issued a release reminding persons purchasing food at restaurants to be observant while buying food. It stated that unsafe food environments could lead to contaminated food products and listed some helpful tips to keep in mind during your next restaurant visit. Restaurants must generally have a clean and presentable appearance. Its walls must be free of dirt, mold, and stains. Surroundings must be sanitary and free of flies, rodents, and stray dogs, since vectors from these animals can enter the premises, and waste disposal bins must always be of the pedal type or sensor controlled. Inside the restaurant, tables and countertops must have impermeable surfaces to facilitate easy cleaning and must be free of dirt. Also, a facility for hand washing must be provided for all dine-in patrons, which must be separate from privy accommodation. With regards to restrooms, there must be separate entrances for male and female patrons. It must not directly ventilate into the restaurant. It must be fitted with a functional extractor fan venting to the outside of the building, must be adequately lit so that the condition can be clearly seen, and it must be fitted with holders for toilet paper and also be provided with liquid soap and clean running water. Regarding the food handler, the Public Health Inspectorate says he or she must cover hair in such a manner as to prevent physical contaminants such as dandruff and hair from falling into food and onto food contact surfaces, must not speak over food, must be properly attired with clean clothes, must not have false or long fingernails, must not wear jewelry or false eyelashes, must wash their hands regularly while handling foodstuff and particularly after handling anything that is dirty, for example, handling money, scratching head, wiping nose, etc., and must not have open wounds, rashes, or skin infections. The Ministry of Health says it is a legal requirement that all persons handling food must obtain a food badge for the current year, which must be displayed at all times. It also said that the premises from which food is offered for sale must also be registered with the Public Health Inspectorate. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Up next, cultural and artistic organizations seminar. Stay with us. Welcome back. Over the period 2013 to 2015, $69 million will be invested in the development of the country's creative and cultural economy, since the sector has been identified as a potential contributor to the gross domestic product. Speaking at the opening, the Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, Dr. the Honorable Lincoln Douglas, noted that his ministry was responsible for implementing government policy and was committed to fostering the right environment to accomplish goals for the creative sector. Minister Douglas says the ministry had been investing a lot in the arts and culture sector, and part of this investment was the seminar, which was hosted in partnership with the DeVos Institute of Arts Management. From August 5th to August 7th, the institute will provide training in building capacity and developing managerial skills to members of national arts and cultural organizations.
If you look at what we've been doing in the ministry over the last few years, you would see that we've been investing a lot in the arts and multiculturalism. I'm thankful for the Institute for coming here and partnering with us to once again make this point that training and skill is very important.
Addressing stakeholders, Minister Douglas said if they did not know how to properly manage their organizations, they would have to work even harder to achieve success, but would keep banging their heads, which was why training and education were necessary.
I have no doubt that with their track record at the Institute, at the DeVos Institute, in training and empowering administrators in the United States and around the world, as we've heard, that you will have a successful few days here in this training, and that their delivery will be successful too. I'm also encouraged by your participation as stakeholders of the arts. The ministry anticipates changes, incremental changes for the better in the way we do business here in the culture sector in Trinidad and Tobago.
He says the ministry anticipates incremental changes for the better in the way business is done in the culture.
It's no longer business as usual, my brothers and sisters. A lot is riding on the development of your organization and your capacity to deliver. Culture is serious business. I'll say it again, and I'll put the emphasis on serious this time. Culture is serious business.
The minister stated the ministry intends to work with civil organizations and non-governmental organizations to fulfill the policy objectives of the draft National Cultural Policy of 2012. He added that during the 2011-2012 fiscal year, the ministry provided institutional and operational support of over 900 individuals and institutions. Ingrid Ryan Rubin, Director of Culture at the Ministry of Arts and Multiculturalism, noted many of the organizations were heavily dependent on government funding. She suggested that for them to become more independent, they would have to change their way of management.
Being a good artist doesn't necessarily make us a good arts manager. And this program is to help you to understand that arts management is critical to success of your art form. If not, you could end up being in a place where you become the death knell of your own art form. And that because you're so focused on the art and not so much on administering the art, we find ourselves sometimes in a place where the art suffers.
She stated government depends on them to organize and manage their organizations just as they depended on government to provide support and create an enabling environment for their work to flourish. Citizens traveling along the Naparima-Mayara Road are being asked to note that there will be a temporary traffic diversion between Matilda Junction and Pitty Cafe Junction. A release from the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure explained that the traffic arrangement would have taken place with immediate effect and is expected to continue until August 31st. The ministry says this is necessary in order to facilitate the completion of slope stabilization works along the Naparima-Mayara Road at the 16.6-kilometer mark in the vicinity of Princestown East Secondary School. Due to the works, westbound traffic will turn right onto the Pitty Cafe Road at Pitty Cafe Junction and proceed right on the Moruga Road, then left at Matilda Junction to proceed in the westerly direction on the Naparima-Mayara Road. Meanwhile, eastbound traffic will remain on the Naparima-Mayara Road between Matilda Junction and the Pitty Cafe Junction. Motorists traveling in the vicinity of the roadworks are asked to proceed with caution and observe all directional signs and barriers, comply with instructions from police officers on site to facilitate the safe flow of traffic in an orderly manner and to be aware of heavy equipment entering and exiting the site. Motorists should also drive at a reduced speed on approaching the work zone. The Ministry of Works and Infrastructure regrets any inconvenience caused and thanks the public for its cooperation. For further information, visit the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure's website, www.mowt.gov.tt, or call the Pure Unit at 638-2350 or 2256. We pause for a short break. When we come back, sports is on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Youth Sport Festival is one of the major initiatives instituted by the Ministry of Sport towards the goal of total participation in sport. The 20th edition of the event was hosted at the Eddie Hart Ground in Tacarigua, and it was a resounding success. Wayne Cunningham tells us more.
They came from all over Trinidad and Tobago to the Eddie Hart Ground in Tacarigua for the 20th edition of the Youth Sports Festival hosted by the Ministry of Sport. Ruth Marchand is the Deputy Director of Physical Education and Sport at the Ministry, and she outlined the benefits to the thousands of participants.
Every year, this program has grown from strength to strength. It provides an avenue for, firstly, fun, self-expression. It also provides an avenue for the following: camaraderie and making new friends, for the unseen to be seen, identifying individual talents, healthy lifestyle, fair play, and the list can go on and on. Today we have representative teams from the company sports camp, the Hoops of Life program, Live Sport program, and the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago communities.
Ashwin Creed, Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Sport, assured that the drive towards total participation in sport is well underway with the support of the government.
Let me thank the government really and the state for providing money for us in the midterm review that would have allowed us to have these important events, because we are really flooding the country with sports. On the sports company side, there's a sports camp going on right now, a national sports camp. We have our Taking Sport to rural communities. We have sports school. We have the district sports festivals and caravans. We just partnered with a group from the Texas Foundation, where we are working on a basketball program, right? With a basketball team that emerged from our sports school with a Texas team. As a matter of fact, they're here today. I don't know if you interviewed them, right? So what we really do is really flooding the country with sport, because we feel that is a mechanism to deal with some of the issues in the country. As a matter of fact, the only time the country stands together is in a sporting event. When we qualified for Bahrain, when Richard Thompson won the silver, right? When we won the relays, right? And other national achievements.
Let's take in some of the activities at the festival.
Finish business. Hey, stand back jumping. Jump up, I done that last year, people. Keep up the jumping. And in the air. Hey, if JUMP is jump.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
More news after this. Thank you for staying with us. People and Social Development Minister Dr. the Honorable Glenn Ramadasing returned to his constituency to continue his direct impact drive. He also said his distribution of school supplies to children in his constituency should not be taken as a sign of early campaigning for local government elections. Minister Glenn Ramadasing resumed by taking part in the Direct Impact Initiative with the distribution of school supplies to approximately 25 children in Carson Field and Caroni as he met constituents at about 6 a.m.
Your MP for the area is working in your community.
This elderly woman says she is suffering since one of her leg was amputated. She wasted no time in pleading for help.
All right, don't worry, right? All right, you take it. I'll put it on a list. I have a program for that.
For her life is a struggle to survive, but Minister Glenn Ramadasing assured her that help will soon be on its way. In addition, he says the walkabout in the community will bring him closer to the people and therefore will be able to address their needs.
This is a normal activity or direct effect walkabouts, and we are in the Castlefield area. Today, in fact, we intended to visit the school, which is the homework center, where we wanted to give some school bags to the children of this community. This is an area where there's a lot of poverty, and we intend to help the children.
He adds they are also working to improve the representative capacity within the constituency and engage in greater dialogue with constituents.
I am of the view that I should try to do this every day, once as it is humanly possible. I would like to be out here in the constituency and in different parts of the country.
Up your pace of walkabouts, so that's often you plan to hit the road.
Well, I know that on Saturday we are out all day. We have a route that is already planned in the Montrose, Londonville area. And on Sunday we'll be out all day as well.
The minister admitted he had not been in his constituency over the past few days due to the by-election. So this walkabout is a constitution of his regular meetings with constituents, to interact with them and to get their views on matters, and also to build the constituency. As he distributed school supplies and hampers at the Carsonfield Homework Centre, Minister Ramadar Singh said the children were the future of the nation and should be encouraged to excel in their education. The minister is due to continue Direct Impact Initiative, which takes social services to communities. Tonight, GISL TV4 launches its first call-in weekly program entitled Healthy Lifestyles MD, hosted by Dr. Vishnu Jilal, a medical practitioner from Chaguanas. Healthy Lifestyles facilitates views, opinions, and questions from you, the viewer, via a telephone, email, and online texting. Look out for Healthy Lifestyles every Tuesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. right here on GISL TV4. And that brings us to the end of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Thank you for watching.